The Hague, Netherlands. 3 Russians and a Ukrainian are on trial in absentia in the Netherlands for their suspected participation in the downing of a Malaysia Airlines commercial airliner in 2014, which killed all 298 people on board. The verdict comes more than 8 years after an aircraft flying from Amsterdam to Kuala Lumpur was gunned down over eastern Ukraine on July 17, 2014, amid a battle between pro-Russian rebels and Ukrainian authorities. As tensions rise over Russia's invasion 8 years later, a Dutch court announces its decision in the trial of 4 individuals over the downing of Malaysia Airlines Flight 17 over Ukraine in 2014. The accused, Russians Igor Girkin, Sergei Dubinsky, Oleg Pulatov, and Ukrainian Leonid Kharchenko, will not appear in court because they have declined to attend the 2.5-year trial. They are accused of murdering all 298 passengers and crew members aboard a Boeing 777 traveling from Amsterdam to Kuala Lumpur when it was attacked over separatist-held eastern Ukraine by a missile provided by Moscow, according to investigators. Prosecutors have sought life sentences for the accused, despite the fact that they're unlikely to face justice if guilty. An exhaustive international inquiry determined that a Buk missile launched from a launcher truck into Ukrainian rebel-held territory from a Russian military camp and then transported back to Russia caused the explosion and disaster of Flight MH17. Investigators believe it was launched by the 53rd Anti-Aircraft Missile Brigade, a Russian military unit stationed in the Russian city of Kursk. During the trial, prosecutors prompted judges through hundreds of pages of evidence to back up their case, including metal recovered from victims' bodies, tapped phone conversations, extensive social media posts, and other open-source data to record the Buk system's movements before and after MH17 was burned down. They have asked for life sentences for all 4 suspects, the most severe penalty under Dutch law. Moscow and one of the defendant's defense lawyers have repeatedly questioned the conclusions and denied any role in the downing of MH17. The trial concludes amid global fallout from Russia's almost 9-month invasion of Ukraine. In late September, Moscow unlawfully invaded sections of eastern Ukraine, including the site where the wreckage of Malaysia Air Flight 17 crashed in 2014. Some relatives of those who perished were waiting for Thursday's decision to see what the court would say regarding Russia's participation in the downing of MH17. None of the 4 suspects is accused of shooting the missile that exploded in flight, and none of them has appeared in court in the Netherlands. Piet Ploeg, who lost his brother Alex, Alex's wife Edith, and their son Robert on a flight to the Indonesian island of Bali for a holiday, stated earlier this week that Russia isn't facing trial, but it is functionally standing trial. He stated that it's as crucial to him that the court says a little about Russia's participation, as it is about the 4 suspects' roles. Oleg Pulatov, the lone suspect represented by counsel during the trial, has maintained his innocence. Prosecutors were accused of tunnel vision by focusing their case on the conclusions of the international probe, while neglecting other plausible reasons, according to his defenders. They proposed alternate explanations, such as Ukrainian soldiers accidentally shooting down the jet with a Buk missile. Pulatov's defense team also attempted to invalidate evidence and claimed he was not given a fair trial. "It is important to me that the truth be disclosed. It is critical to me that my nation not be blamed for this catastrophe," Pulatov declared in a video message to judges in June as the evidence presentation concluded. Oleg Pulatov, the lone suspect represented by counsel during the trial, has maintained his innocence. Prosecutors were accused of tunnel vision by focusing their case on the conclusions of the international probe while neglecting other plausible reasons, according to his defenders. The judgment will inform us a lot about Russia's participation and culpability. Piet Ploeg, head of the MH17 Foundation and the brother, sister-in-law, and nephew who died in the crash, said AFP outside court. "I don't believe in closure. As family who have lost children, there will never be closure, but I sincerely hope that this day gives families some breathing room to attempt to go on with their lives." The disaster sparked international outcry and penalties against Moscow, with victims and debris littering Ukraine's renowned sunflower fields. After the jet was shot out of the sky, some victims, including children, were still strapped into their seats. 8 years later, the area where MH17 went down has become a critical battleground in Russia's almost 9-month-long conflict in Ukraine. Meanwhile, the MH17 trial has emerged as a test case for efforts to bring perpetrators of war crimes to justice in Ukraine since 2014. The trial began in March 2020 with a solemn reading of all 298 victims' names. The court also went to see the plane's mangled wreckage, which has been rebuilt at a Dutch military installation. 3 of the accused are being arraigned in absentia, while Pulatov has had legal representation throughout the trial and delivered a video statement in which he stated that he was not guilty. Prosecutors allege that Girkin, 51, a former Russian agent who became the so-called defense minister of the separatist Donetsk People's Republic, communicated with Russia in order to procure the missile system. He is denied any involvement in the downing of MH17, the backdrop of conflict. Girkin recently chastised Russia's military for its conduct in the year's invasion and is said to have volunteered to fight in Ukraine. Dubinsky, 60, who has also been linked to Russian intelligence, allegedly functioned as the separatists' military intelligence commander and was in charge of issuing missile orders. According to prosecutors, Pulatov, 56, an ex-Russian Special Forces member, and Kharchenko, 50, who reportedly oversaw a separatist squad, were subordinates who had a rather more substantial role in delivering the missile. The Buk missile was confirmed as originating from Russia's 53rd Anti-Aircraft Missile Brigade in Kursk, the court heard. Defense attorneys claimed that the trial has indeed been unfair. They claim prosecutors failed to show a Buk missile brought down the plane and instead proposed alternative possibilities, such as a Ukrainian aeroplane shooting it down. Moscow has categorically denied any participation. It has refused to repatriate any of the accused, claiming that doing so would be unlawful under Russian law. The decision comes in the midst of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which has now generated worries of a larger worldwide conflict. Track them down. The trial marks the conclusion of a protracted hunt for justice for the MH17 victims, who came from 10 nations and included 196 Dutch, 43 Malaysians, and 38 Australians. They proposed alternate explanations, such as Ukrainian soldiers accidentally shooting down the jet with a Buk missile. Pulatov's defense team also attempted to invalidate evidence and claim he was not given a fair trial. It's important to me to ensure that the truth is disclosed. It is critical to me that my nation not be blamed for this catastrophe, Pulatov declared in a video message to jurors in June as the evidence presentation concluded.